on this episode of the Sports Opinions podcast. I'm back. It's been a little bit. I talk about the hiatus a little bit and what happened and why. It's been over a month since we've been back. Then I talk about the Sports Opinions Podcast Network, and it's going to undergo some changes. We have some expansion happening. I talk about that. Then I get into the topic of the show, the lack of adolescent sports going on right now during the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, and its effect on not only the kids, but the parents, the coaches, everybody involved. It's a really involved topic. I get pretty deep, but I think it's something that we need to talk about that no one else is talking about, and it's an important topic for it touches more than just the pro and collegiate sports side. So I hope everyone enjoys it. Without any further ado, enjoy the show. What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I am your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. And today I'm going to be doing something that I have not done in a really long time. That's going solo. No guest on. It's been a while. If you've been a faithful follower of Sports Opinions Podcast, if you have been listening since the beginning, we've had, I think this might be the 126th, 136th episode, maybe even more. I don't know. We've been doing this for a while now. It's my baby. Sports Opinions Podcast has been something I've done, and it's been a while since I've been able to get something recorded. There's been a lot of reasons for that. First things first, there's lots of things going on in my life. Welcomed in to the world my second daughter. I think I've talked about that already a few times, but welcomed her into this world. She's around 2 months old, so that's been a lot going on. I have been in the hunt for a new home. Hopefully we're going through the process of getting a new home right now. So that's been really hectic, packing things up and, getting my life into boxes and things like that. If anyone's ever moved, they know that's no fun. And lastly, it's been just timing with guests. It just seems to have not been on lately. And I knew that could be an occurrence, and that's fine. But I need to be better, at least getting something out. If I had to go solo more often, I'll go solo more often. It's not a big deal, but I appreciate everyone that has stuck with me so far in the 2+ years that I've been doing this. I plan on doing this for a while. I still plan on having some awesome guests. I don't know what really happened. Well, I do. I got super busy with the series, with the football divisions. I might try to get that going again and finish that, but it's been a while now. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But overall, it's a lot of excuses, but I'm looking to get more consistent again. If anyone's noticed, this has now gone to being bi-weekly. I started another podcast that I'll talk about in a little bit, but that one has now also become a bi-weekly thing, kind of for the sake of time. I have a full-time job. I've been out of work as well. That's another excuse, out of work and back to work again, back on my full-time job. So that's another, I guess, built-in excuse for why I haven't been able to be as consistent. But the other podcast has also cut into this and made this into a bi-weekly show. That's also bi-weekly. So lots of moving parts. We'll be better. Sports Opinions Podcast will continue. Look at the logo. But we're going to continue going on. And I just want to give everyone the 411 about what's going on with me, what's going on with the podcast. It's still going on. It's still a thing. My sincere apologies for it taking a while in getting it back. Now, in terms of the network, I mentioned my new show. I just want to talk about the fact that the network is expanding. Currently, as it stands, we're the Sports Opinions Podcast Network, and that has encompassed this show itself, Sports Opinions Podcast, Cuesta Dose, the show with me and my brother, David Cuesta, Play Action, Personal Foul Podcast. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Personal Foul Podcast with Colton Gesser, The Playbook with Rob Planter and Joe Hackett, and then We're Young But Just Us with Kyle Doctor. Well, we've begun expanding. And one of the shows that we've added is Play Action Podcast. Colton Gesser is jumping on with his buddy Will Gethard, and they're talking a whole bunch of football there and other sports. So that's a fun one. And then also another new podcast called the Gentleman's Cabal Podcast. And that one is not for the underage. It's my buddy Louis Rosado, Shamel Jacques, and his two buddies, Jacques. I don't know how to say your last name, Shamel. And his two buddies, Aaron Hoare and BJ Davis, they started a show, and it's just them kind of just talking about whatever comes to their brain. It's a fun time. It is very explicit, so it is not for the youngins, but it's a great show if you have the time to listen to it. And then also my new show, The Median, dipping my toe into politics a little bit, a show where I interview political pundits, politicians, political media members, and I'm probably going to open it up to politically active people as we're here in this time of the presidential race going on in full tilt. Just, basically I'm doing it in a different way where I talk to them. They choose the topics that they want to talk about, and I play devil's advocate and push past the talking points because I'm tired of political media and how it's been. But this isn't a political show. I was just kind of, telling you what that's going on there in expansion. And there is more to come. So with that, with us now branching outside of sports a little bit, we are going to be rebranded soon. It is not going to be the Sports Opinions Podcast Network. Sports Opinions Podcast will continue to be there, but the network is going to become a new name. It's a simple name. It's already a few places, the Opinions Podcast Network, but that is what it's going to be. It's going to be all encompassing. So you'll be seeing a lot more different style podcasts on the network, not just sports. But there's plenty more to come. We're going to continue to expand. We're going to continue to bring great content. And for those of you that are new to the network, hi, thank you. And for those of you that have been along for the ride, mostly my family members and good friends that have continued to support me and people I've made friends with along the way, thank you for your support as always. I love you all. And we're going to continue to bring out the great content. We're going to continue to do this. The beauty about this network right now is none of us are paid. None of us are making money off of this. We're all pumping out the podcast because we love doing it. We're enjoying what we're doing. And you see some of them go on hiatus for a little while and this and that. It's because it's a passion project for us. And if there's not something there that we want to do at the moment, we don't have to. And it's the beauty of podcasting. So I just want to thank everyone in the network. I want to thank everyone that's been following us. Thank everybody that supports us. And we are going to continue to push, and we're going to continue to bring out great content. So I'm going to jump into the topic today. It is a single topic that is a little different than from everything I think we've been seeing and hearing in terms of sports. Now, with COVID-19 coronavirus, we have all been affected by it in any way, shape, or form, whether it's losing a loved one, whether it's losing your job, being laid off from your job, having to take a cutback, having to work through this scary time if you're an essential worker, either in a hospital or as a first responder or in the care field, child care and adult care, construction workers that had to continue going on certain areas. There is many more in the essential work field that I just didn't even name, but there is a lot. And we focus a lot on the health and medical because, God, they deserve all of our praise, even outside of these pandemic times. But there's a lot of essential workers, and we've all been affected. And something that I think a lot of us sports fans have been clamoring for is the return of sports. And we're slowly but surely getting the trickle in. Almost all the sports leagues are up and going, and we're enjoying it. And I think we're all enjoying seeing the sports back and seeing our favorite athletes back and playing, even though some of them aren't. For the most part, they're all back and playing. The leagues did what they could to get truncated seasons. We're waiting for the NFL to get going. They seem to be doing pretty well with all this. But we are getting it back. So as big-time sports fans, we are going to be able to see our athletes play. College sports are up in the air, but we're going to get to see it. What I want to focus on, though, is how this has affected just the family unit in terms of the lack of adolescent sports that have gone on, the lack of sports at the kids level, at the high school level, the middle school, and younger. Because we hear so much about the fandom and how fans wanted to see the pro sports and college sports. And while that's important because there's fanatical people that really do enjoy this stuff. I'm a massive Nets fan. I have been craving for the Nets to come back. I love the Jets. I can't wait for the Jets season to start. The Yankees are playing. These types of things I love too. But there was a time where I was an adolescent athlete. And as much as I love my pro sports, there was nothing more that I look forward to than being able to go and not always practice in football because nobody likes practice, but go to put on the pads in general and play. And to go play the games and even to go to practice a lot of the times, to be around people and all the things that I did when I was young. And I don't think we realize the impact that this has had If you are a family member with kids, you understand the impact. But I just kind of want to go over how I feel that the family units that have young athletes have been affected. So, one of the things that I saw, and this is relevant to the big debate going on whether or not kids should be going back to school, that is a huge hot button topic. And it's neither here nor there. I'm not here to make commentary on whether or not they should go back to school because that's everyone's choice. Is it in reality? I think that's the way it should be, that even if the school opens up in your area, opens up or not, if it opens up, there should be no penalty if a parent does not want to send their kid back to school due to the COVID pandemic. Like, I'm sorry. If you don't feel safe enough to do it, don't do it. And there should be no penalty for it right now. I know truancy is an issue at times, but this should be an extenuating circumstance. But I noticed that there is a CDC article that came out that basically pushed for kids to get back into school for not even just the education reason. That's a major one. Obviously, we need our kids educated. We need our kids in school to learn, because the basics, essentially, your reading, your writing, your arithmetic, that is the most important part to having a functioning society, is to have all these things in place. But another reason, a bunch of reasons why they had there, was in terms of the services provided, with food and with mental health. And also a big aspect is the socialization side. And that's where I'm kind of going in with this focus, is because one of the major things for me when it came to adolescent sports and playing as a young athlete is I made a ton of friends throughout the years playing in football, playing soccer, did basketball for a little bit, did baseball for one season. And then when it carried through to high school, I had such a diverse and such a wide array of friends that I was able to turn to and talk to and lean on in so many different times, in so many different ways in my life, that I wouldn't have had unless we made these types of bonds. And I'll tell you, there's bonds to be made. When you are working your tail off at practice, you're all sweating. As in football, you're hitting each other, you're going through plays, you're teaching each other, you're helping each other, you're in the same exact pain as you're doing gassers at the end of practice. Or in soccer, when you're trying to work as one complete unit. And as a child, you're trying to learn and grasp these things while also trying to hang out with your friends. And it's just something that at this point, and at any of the youth age, when you're taking this away from them for a season, 2 seasons, however long this is going to go on, it hurts. Our kids need this socialization. I know I needed that socialization. And I know it's really popular nowadays. And I don't know if it's always been this popular, but it's super popular for people to be like, yeah, well, I'm an introvert. No, you're not. You can be. I'm not saying you're not an introvert, but even introverts search for other introverts to be friends with. So we're a very communal group of beasts as human beings, that I found that even if you consider yourself a loner, an introvert, or someone that likes to be alone, you don't always like to be alone. You find that group of friends that also likes to be alone too. So you guys can just be alone together. But we are a communal group of beasts. And part of that gets fulfilled at a young age when you're doing these types of things. And this kind of goes outside of just sports too. I include this with your gymnastics, your dance class, your cheer class, your swim lessons, all the things that you do with kids. It's important to them on so many other levels, because they can only hang out with their family so often and learn so much from their family, or want to be accepting to learn. Because there's another important aspect that goes along with being in sports, being in certain areas, and that's also learning from other adults. I don't know what it is, and I did it. I noticed that when I coach, because I've coached at my brother David, we're on Cuesta Dos together. He's 8 years younger than me. So I've always loved to coach. I've always loved to be, a teacher and learn the games that I did. And my brother played football, and I remember coaching him from flag level all the way up to, I think he did all the way through midgets in Pop Warner. And basically it's flag, mighty might, junior pee wee midgets in Pop Warner level. And I tried to help out as often as I can and coach as often as I can. And for whatever reason, you grasp sometimes things not only in the game, but about life. When there is a coach when there is another adult, when there is someone that I guess as a kid you look up to a little bit, is trying to teach you that same thing. Because there are times where, even when I was growing up, when my dad would watch me play and he would come up to me and say, "You did this wrong." And I was, "No, I don't want to hear it, Dad. I know what I'm doing. Leave me alone." And then the very next day at practice, the coach would say the same exact thing to me. And yes, sir, very receptive. And I understood it. My dad wasn't wrong. But for whatever reason, we just need to hear it from other adults. We need to hear it from our peers. Our parents are the most important things in our lives when we're younger. But there are times where we feel like we know everything. And there are times now where I feel like I know more than my parents, and I know my parents still know more than me. And as a 31-year-old man, I still lean on my parents to help me out with a lot of things. So it's a give and take, but there is something to be said there about having another adult, a coach, a parent figure, someone that the kid respects and looks up to, teaching them new things. And it's not even just teaching them the game, it's teaching them different values in sports, in band, in gymnastics, in cheer. There is a work aspect that you need to work at. There's some people that are just gifted and just can get it and just can do things in terms of all this stuff. But there's other things where there's values that are taught in hard work. When there's a certain thing that a kid just can't get. And I feel like too often, it seems like in this day and age, it's okay to give up. But that's where sports and that's where certain types of these programs come in. Because it's not okay to give up in those things. You won't play, or you'll play poorly, and it'll reflect. And if you have the right people around you, if you have the right coaches, if you have the right kids, they're going to push you and they're going to force you to work hard. And you kind of find out about yourself when you're doing these types of things. You find out about how hard you're willing to work, how much you're willing to push to get what you want to get, to do what you want to do. So there's things learned, again, outside of the family unit when you're bringing your kids to go and socialize and to go and do these things. So there is that major effect on kids there from listening and learning from another adult, from their peers, from even older kids that they look up to. So there's that major aspect. And this kind of goes at all three levels of, elementary, primary level, middle level, and high school level. Because even high school kids really look up to their coaches. I know they do. And they look up to the collegiate kids that are coming back to help them and teach them that might have been their peers and are still their peers, but now have a few college years under their belt. So they know a little more if they continue to play the sport, and they're going to come back and they're going to try and teach their friends. So that's a big deal. But it's another important aspect of why we need to continue to work hard to, even if our kids don't go back to school, we need to figure out a way to continue to get them back into these types of little things that maybe aren't major to us, but is the world to them. I could tell you it meant the world to me to play football every single year. It meant the world to me to continue to play soccer every year. It meant the world to me in high school to compete in sports every single day after school. So those are great things that we just need to continue to try and push in this tough time, and remember that even though it's difficult, we got to continue to do this for our kids. Another aspect, I mentioned that it might not be as important to us, but man, it is important to adults as well. And I've seen it. I haven't had the chance to bring my daughters to anything. My oldest daughter is 2. My youngest one is 2 months and change. But I've seen the aspect of the parents that can use this time as well, that they need this time. It's hectic, but it is good for them as well to get out of the house, to get away from work, to go and bring them to something where, well, yes, it's time consuming and it's hectic. It's designing dinners, quick dinners, maybe going out and getting food quickly, making sure they do their homework and all this other stuff that goes with it. But when you're at that practice, and a lot of parents do hang out at these practices, you have time. You're watching your kid compete. You're socializing with other adults, and you're making friendships a lot of the times there. I know that, especially my sister, she's 4 years older than me. She's been on the podcast before. A bunch of my friends, well, not my friends, a bunch of my sister's friends ended up with their families becoming good friends with my family. And it's through her doing cheerleading and gymnastics and the likes. They all realized that there were a lot of people who had a lot of things in common. And I can remember just so many family parties where it wasn't just my family, it was my sister's friends' families coming. And it was just a cool thing that wouldn't have happened without the sports aspect of it. Maybe it might have, but it wouldn't have been as organic and as easy where our parents all met each other. So it benefits so many different parties. And it even happened, at my brother's level. We have people, Joe Hackett, Rob Planter, both guys from the playbook, even Colton Gesser. They're from families that my brother played sports with and interacted with. And my mother and my father are very close to the Hacketts. Joe Hackett was on the show, Big Joe Hackett, best friends with my mother and father. And then the Planters are very close. And Matt Santos, who's been a contributor, their family is very close to ours. So it's just something about the aspect of doing sports that even the parents come together. And it's good for them too, because work is stressful. Life is stressful. Going home and dealing with all the home stuff is stressful. Sometimes that is a nice release to go and maybe just talk to somebody else outside of that realm that you see twice a week and maybe on weekends, 3 times a week and on weekends. And you can really just, and it gains a friendship because you're going through the same things together. So that's another thing that's kind of been robbed. And a Zoom meeting and a phone call are never going to simulate what you do when you're talking person to person, because body language and the feeling in the air when you're both speaking is completely different than when you're just talking on Zoom. It's gotten better. Believe me, technology has made it awesome. Talking on the phone, you don't see them. Now that you can do Zoom calls, that's pretty cool. That's stuff of the future, but it still doesn't simulate the in-person stuff. So it's a big benefit for parents too. Both parties have a lot to gain from these types of things. You gain your friend groups, and also you kind of see who you want your kids to hang out with. You find out who you trust as parents for your kid to go over their house. I don't know about you, but I'm not sending my daughter to any person's house that I don't trust. But if I know it's Sally from swim class, and I've been there, and I've met Sally's parents a million times, and we talk, and they're good people. Yeah, when she comes up to me and says, I want to go to Sally's tonight for dinner, it's going to be a lot easier for me to look at them and say, are you okay with that? Yeah, sure. And that's something that if it's just Sally from class and I've never met their parents, or maybe I've seen them once or twice at a parent-teacher thing, or what, no, you're not going to Sally's for dinner. I'm going to come with you first, and I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to see what they're like. But it's these types of things that just make it so much easier for these friendships to blossom, and for even parental things and, adult friendships to blossom. So it's super beneficial for all parties. So again, I've only touched on a few things, but just how important it is in the kids' lives and even the parents' lives. I still have a list of things to go through here. One of them being something that I've experienced personally. These next 2 topics are something that I've experienced personally. What the coaches gain. At the high school level, a lot of them are paid, but there's plenty of volunteers. At the middle school level, again, a lot of them are paid. But at the Pop Warner and at the youth level, the younger level, there's a lot of volunteers that go into Little League Baseball, that go into AAU basketball, that go into Pop Warner football, and so many of these other leagues and volunteer things in terms of swimming and, like I said, gymnastics. A lot of them are paid, but still it's not much if they are. And it's a lot of volunteer stuff. But there is a lot that is gained as a coach, I have to say, because what I've done in terms of my coaching past, and it's not fast, it's not great. I don't have not this big time guy, so I'm not saying this to brag. But like I said, I've coached my brother throughout football for a whole bunch. So I did a lot of volunteer work dealing with young kids down to 6 years old, all the way up to 13 heading into high school. So I did a lot of work there. I've coached high school athletes. I helped coach high school football. I helped coach high school track and field. And then at the collegiate level, back in my alma mater at Marist, I did 2 years of volunteer on the track and field program as a sprints coach, and also 2 years paid as a sprint coach. So I have some experience in the coaching realm. Man, there isn't a better feeling. I've had some accomplishments as an athlete. I'm not going to lie. I was a decent track athlete in high school. I've had some accomplishments. They felt great. Succeeding feels awesome. especially when you come from Manchester at the time where I played football. We didn't win much, but succeeding feels great. Nothing feels better than as a coach watching a small victory that your athlete does. And I think any coach that's been an athlete or any coach in general will attest to that. If you watch, especially that younger kid, as they get older, it still feels great to see a kid, their face beams when they make you proud from doing something that you two have worked your tail off of in practice. But it also, when they're younger and when they do something that you've told them they can do and they failed and they failed and they failed, and finally they succeed on doing it, there's no feeling like it. There isn't. And a lot of the coaches at the lower levels are dads, are moms, are siblings. So you're also coaching your family. And like I said, their friends become family as well when you all are doing things for years and years and years together. You know the same group of people, and these kids are staying with your kids or your siblings, and you get to know them well. So even when they succeed, it's just so cool to see as a unit. It's such a great feeling. And then you're helping others succeed, and you're helping others learn, and you're teaching others good values, perseverance, hard work. It's just an all-around great cycle. If you're into coaching for the right reason, no matter how long you do it, whether it's your kid, whether it's not, whether you're just there, whether you're getting paid, if you're into it for the right reason, it's always going to be beneficial. Because even if you have losing seasons, watching progress, watching kids do things that they didn't think they could do is just something that you can't describe it, the feeling that you have as a coach watching it happen, unless you've done it, unless you've seen it. And that it's watching a kid in baseball hit a breaking ball and they haven't been able to hit one, and you've been trying to work on different techniques, and all of a sudden they wallop a breaking ball and get a double, and they're beaming, staring at their coach that has been working with them for weeks. Again, I can go through a bunch of different things and a bunch of different scenarios, but it's a great feeling. And again, a lot of the guys and girls that coach, it's a community of coaches that do these things. When you coach with somebody, when you're designing practices, when you're designing playbooks, when you're designing plays and plans for your teams, you also build bonds with each other. And that's another thing that has been taken away. The bonds of coaches. I could only imagine how many coaches that have plans. And a lot of these, I'm speaking a lot to football, but football to me is something that I knew because I did football for a really long time. I ended up going to school to run track, but I did football from a young age and continued. And one of the things I know is a lot of the coaches try to stay with their groups in a lot of areas. So they all know each other. They all know the kids. They are prepping every single year to, okay, what are we going to try and teach them now? Okay, what are we going to do here? What's the plan to get them? And they're all friends. They've been robbed of something here. And I can only imagine them all chomping at the bit to get back. And I've seen a lot of softball and stuff and baseball have gotten going again. That's awesome that's gotten going again. And that's just one sport that's gotten going again. Football is still on hold for the most part. I haven't seen basketball at a youth level really get going. So, good for the baseball and softball people that they're getting going. And I know that they are super happy. They're taking all the precautions necessary, but they are pumped to get going because they get to coach again. They get to play again. They get to socialize again. They get to see other people. They get to see people that they love seeing that they haven't seen in a while because they're not family and they did not want to take the risk during this time to do it. So it's such a beneficial thing all around. And I want to get to the young coaches, the volunteer coaches. Again, something I could speak to because it's something that I was. You learn a lot as a volunteer coach, not only about the game that you're volunteering, but about people, but about kids, but about yourself when you were that age and looking back and going, I was that kid. And why didn't I listen to when coach told me this? And then you try to do it. I've seen that happen to myself at times where I've seen a coach has had the same argument or the same debate with a kid that has done the same thing I have. And it goes and plays in my head. And I'm like, maybe I can reach this kid. And I've tried and I've reached some and I haven't reached others. but it's just what they learn and the knowledge that they gain and the experience for life that you get, especially when you get to go back and coach with some of the coaches you looked up to. I've had the great benefit of going back to coach with some fantastic coaches that I looked up to. Gerard O'Donnell gave me my first football position as a volunteer coach with him. I had him on the show, just a guy that I respected that coached me when I was a senior in high school playing football. That's just a fantastic person overall. I've had the ability to go back and coach with my collegiate coach. Pete Colizzo has been on the show, and Chuck Williams, he's also been on the show. Those two guys, I look to them as family, respect the hell out of them, have learned a ton from them going back and learning and watching. And again, it's another thing where when you go back to these sports, when you go back to these clubs, when you go back to all these things, you're not only learning about what you're doing, you learn a lot about life. You learn a lot about how to handle yourself. You learn a lot about how to work with people, how to get through difficult times, because it's not always easy. So it's these young kids that are now losing volunteer hours, and whether or not they put them down as official volunteer hours, when they're losing this time to volunteer, to go back and to give back, where we need more people giving back. And a lot of these kids want to give back. And if any kids at the collegiate level are listening right now, or even at the high school level, go back and give back. Go coach in Little League and help out. Go coach in Pop Warner. Go coach in AAU. If you're in college, go find out if you can help in your high school in any sort of way with summer practices, or if you're close to it, do something with them, because giving back is great. It's a great feeling. And I'm telling you, it's the same effect when I said that certain younger kids, when they need to get taught by other adults, they take more, or they receive more. If you go back as a former peer, or even as a guy that's been, out for 2 or 3 years, and it's a new group, and it's something different where kids sometimes grasp onto what you say a little more, and you have no idea the effect that you will have on some kids' life. I have kids that I coached that I'm friends with on social media that to this day still call me coach, which again, I put the term coach, being called coach to me is put up there with being called something like doctor or justice, or, it's the highest respect. And I love when I hear kids calling me coach still to this day. If I could coach the rest of my life, I would. But so that's another thing, is the volunteer kids that are now losing time with volunteer. That's another tough aspect of this. And these are all things that I think get put by the wayside, because when we talk about sports coming back, when we talk about losing sports, it's always in the context of pro and college. We need to put this back again on the kids too, that we need to realize that the youth is losing a lot from this pandemic and things being shut down and sports being shut down. And so were the parents. And so were those all around it that help out to make these things turn. So I mentioned some of the lessons that have been taught to kids. And it's not just about the sport, like I said. There are life lessons taught. It is lessons of you build yourself through sports. You build yourself through the clubs. If you're passionate about a club, if you're passionate about band, if you're passionate about cheerleading, if you're passionate about swimming, whatever other hobbies and bands and things that there are out there that take hard work and perseverance and coaching, you learn a lot about yourself being able to consistently do this, because you're always trying to get better. You're always trying to learn something new. You're always trying to advance. And when you're doing those things, you'll learn about you. You learn how hard you're willing to go, what this actually means to you. When are you willing to give up? What is your breaking point? Do you know what the word give up means? Do you know what the word hard work really means? You find out so many of these things through the things that have been robbed from us right now with COVID-19. And it's just memories that I have, and random memories of not even successes or failures, just random moments throughout playing football, throughout playing soccer, throughout running track, throughout going back and coaching. There's just random things in my head that sometimes I have no idea what value they bring, but I just know that they bring a smile to my face, or they make me sad, or they make me angry. But they're all lessons that I've learned and things that have taught me. And I even talked to my wife, Julie, who's also been on the podcast. And she's talked about times with, dance and piano and certain teachers that she remembers that just stuck in her head. And that's not by mistake. It's because these people all meant something to her. These people all taught her things. They all pushed her and they all showed her that she could do things she didn't think she could do. So there's just so many different lessons that are being lost. And when kids are young, the younger they are, the more that we can teach them, the more that they absorb. As they get older, it's less and less. They get more stuck in their ways. Me as an adult, I'm hard to teach. You, if you're an adult listening, you're hard to teach. You might want to learn, you might want to be taught, but the moment someone tries to teach you something that you think, I have a better way, you're not super receptive to it because you have done it your way and it's worked. So it's tough to be receptive to that. But the younger they are, the less they know, the more that, they want to learn, the more that they're willing to learn different styles of things. So those life lessons there are being lost. And every single day that we don't have a kid in these types of programs, whether it's after school playing sports or if for their school or just doing programs after school in different types of leagues, it's losing a lot of just lessons learned for these kids that parents try to teach, but don't always successfully teach. And I don't know what the psychological reason is for that with kids, why a parent sometimes tries to teach the same exact thing and can't get it across. But it's a thing. And I have no idea why. Another thing that kids learn when it comes to sports and all these other hobbies is they learn how to win and succeed with grace and humility. If there's a good coach there, a good coach and a good teacher, will teach them how to be successful with grace and humility. Not all of them are going to be receptive to it, obviously. We've seen plenty of showboaters and plenty of things like that. But they'll learn. They will be taught that. It will be demanded of them. You have no idea how many coaches that I've had that when you do something good and you start celebrating, they look at me and I pass it on and say, pretend like you've been there before. Pretend like you've done it before. Be happy. Little celebration because you've done something great or very good or big accomplishment to you. But don't go over the top. Nothing. And we've all seen it. People early celebrations or over celebrating. There's not many things more embarrassing than watching that happen because it comes to a point where you're the only one doing it and it's awkward. But if it's taught from a young age to win with grace, be humble when you win with humility, it's something that gets jammed into a lot of kids. And they take that with them regardless of what they do. If it's acing a test, if it's beating out someone really closely to get something that they need to achieve outside of sports, they learn not to rub people's nose in it. And that's a very valuable thing to learn. And it's something we've definitely lost a big time, a big part of. Because for whatever reason now, we just like seeing people rub other people's nose in it. It's not good. But another thing that we've lose when we don't have these types of things is learning how to lose and fail with some pride. If you gave it your all and you worked your tail off and you just weren't the better person that day, there's nothing wrong with still having pride with what you did. You don't have to get depressed. What needs to happen, and again, what a good coach and teacher will do is tell you, say, listen, you failed. I know you worked your tail off. Let's get back at it. Work harder. Learn from your failures. And I've had plenty of failure in my life. We've all had plenty of failure in our life. And the failure is what teaches you more. It's another life lesson that kids are being robbed of when they're having Zoom tests or when they're only competing against their siblings and they know each other super well. And they don't get to go out and really compete against each other. Failure on a video game, you could just turn that off. And I love video games and I respect esports because no one's rage quitting on an esport. Those esport people are athletes. You got to work your tail off. You have to be coached. You have to be good. Esports are athletes, putting that right out there. So there's a lot. I'm not saying video games in terms of them, but a lot of the way we play video games now It's very communal, but it's easy to just, log out. Whatever. I didn't have a good round in that game of Call of Duty. Next one, sports are like that too. And, all the other things are like that too. There is a next one. But there is also something to be said about when it's head-to-head competition and you're losing that way. It's different than that, than doing it inside your home, on a console. When you're out and about doing it, when you're in the same room as somebody competing against them, or just working with them, and they're just better than you at that day, or they've been better than you, and you're constantly failing. You learn how to work harder to succeed. And you may never get better than that person that was better than you. But as long as you keep trying, you're getting better. And that's another thing that we need to get people back into these types of things. Get these kids back into these types of things because they need to learn this lesson. They need to learn that failure is okay, but they also need to learn that it's not acceptable. There isn't, failure is okay. Failure is a part of life, but it's what you do after that failure that is going to define you and make you. If you just whine and moan, you shouldn't get anything from it. You might, I don't know, nowadays if whining and moaning gets you somewhere, but you shouldn't get something from that. You should just have the drive to work harder. And that's something that, again, the more younger kids are being robbed of this, the less that lesson can be jammed in. So it's just a lot. When you tally up everything that I'm talking about, I keep on touching on the same things, but the things that I'm touching on are super important. It's a lot that people are losing, that people in general are losing without having these after school and extracurricular things. And lastly, but not least, one of the toughest things that is being robbed here is we are all of us, top to bottom, super scared of what COVID-19 and coronavirus could do to our kids, could do to our loved ones, could do to our families. It is a scary, scary time. When you have these extracurricular things, when you put your kids in a sport, in a hobby, a competitive hobby, where they have to work hard to succeed. As parents, I'm experiencing it now. You want to do everything for your kid. You never want your kid to fail. You only want them to succeed. You only want them to smile. You only want them to laugh. The last thing you want to see is your kid crying or your kid disappointed. I mean, them being sad is still better. It's the same thing with a parent. You rather have them be pissed and disappointed. You would much rather see your kid just pissed off and sad than disappointed and feeling like they're not enough. It is a terrible feeling. And I've only been doing it for 2 years of my daughters. But I have seen it with all the kids I've coached. I've seen it over and over and over again, the disappointment. And it's terrible. And for a parent, this is also something important for them. Because when you're a parent, if you're not one of the coaches that coach their kids at least have the opportunity to help them in a way that is direct because they're coaching them. They can teach them new techniques. The other coaches, they can try and help. But if you're a parent on the sidelines watching, and if you're seeing your kid play baseball, and this is now their 6th year playing, 5th year playing, and they have never gone through a slump at the plate this bad, and you see them strike out again, and automatically their head goes down, and they are so disappointed. You feel helpless. And you try to give them your words of encouragement, but you know that there isn't anything really you can do besides that. It's an important thing for you as a parent. It's an important thing to learn as a person sometimes, that it's okay to watch other people fail. It's okay to see them do it. Your job there now is to help them figure it out in a constructive way. And I know it's tough. It's tough sometimes for me, with my daughters already. It's tough with people you love, when you know how to figure out what they're doing and they're stubborn. You've done it before. You've been in their shoes and you knew exactly what you did to get out of it. But for some reason, they just don't want to take your advice. They want to do it their way. They want to keep hitting their head against the wall, and you have no idea why. But this is a good lesson when you're watching your kids do it, because it's even worse. but it's good. It's healthy. It is good to be able to see your kids fail, because when they do succeed at that thing with your help, but also on their own, because they're out on the field doing it on their own, they're playing that instrument on their own. When they're able to do things on their own that you can't do for them, and they've been constantly failing, and all of a sudden they succeed, it's great for both of you, because it gives you the confidence that you don't have to do everything for them. You know you don't have to. But when you see them be able to do it on their own, it's a great booster for you. And for the kids, it's nice for them to get that self-esteem. That's a self-esteem building. That is building for them in terms of knowing that they are enough sometimes, that it's not always someone else that has to help them do it. And that's huge. And again, the longer we keep kids out of these extra stuff, out of these extra sports, extra hobbies, especially the young ones as they get older, it's only hurting them. Now, I don't have the answer to when this pandemic's going to go away. I don't have the answer to when's the perfect time to start doing all this again. I barely have the answers for things going on in my own life most of the time, but I do know the effect that it is having. I know it from my past experiences. I know what I would have went through if I was a third grade kid that spent my summer inside. The end of my year, I couldn't do whatever sport that I did at the end of the year, in winter, into whatever it was at that time. And I know for a fact I looked forward to fall because I looked forward to football. I can't imagine being told right now as a third grade, fourth grade kid, maybe even fifth, sixth, has played football for so long, and I'm so used to it, and it's so robotic, and I might have lost my summer, but I know the school year starts, and the school year starts means I'm playing football. And now you're telling me the school year might not start. And now you're telling me football might not happen. And I was already inside. I was already doing all these Zoom classes. I'm already tired of being home every day. I love my mom and dad, but I'm tired of talking to them. It's scary stuff, and it's not going to help our kids mentally. It's not going to help our kids socially. We got to figure out a way. And again, I understand the scariness. I understand the transmission factor. I understand we don't want to give it to teachers, to coaches, who some of them are at advanced ages. Some of our kids live with their grandparents. Some of our parents some of them are at advanced ages. Some of them are susceptible. This is a difficult choice. It's a choice that the families need to make. But I will say that it's a choice that needs to be made with a lot of thought and knowing your kid, and that just realizing that the formidable years are called that for a reason, because this is when the kids gain so much. And I know it might not seem like a lot, because in life, a summer into a fall is not a lot when you look at the whole entire tree of your life. As an adult, it's easy to see that. As a 9, 10, 6, 7, 14, 13-year-old kid, it's a lifetime. So again, this is the topic. I was just bringing up all the things here. It's a tough topic to talk about, and there is no right answer. And any parent that is going to say, Alex, you're nuts, hell no, my kid's not going to do, until we have a vaccine, until there's a treatment, until there's some reassurance, until we know we can go back to life, or until this thing is gone, my kid's staying in a bunker. And that's all that's going to happen. You're not wrong. I'm not telling you you're wrong, because I don't blame you. This is scary stuff. But also the parent that's on the fence, that is sitting there thinking, man, my kid's going nuts every day. I'm going nuts every day. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at everything going on, and it might be safe to take this chance. You're not wrong either, because nobody knows. But again, what I do know is we got to figure this out sooner than later, because again, the pro stuff, the collegiate stuff, it is what it is. That is what it is. But the effect that it's having on our kids could be, like the CDC article said, go look it up about returning back to school. it could be irreversible damage if we don't get our kids back to some normalcy sometime soon. Just tried to put it in the sports realm here. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this. I know it's been a long time since Sports Opinions has been back, and I know this was a heavy topic to come back on and start with. It was a pretty serious one, but I just thought it'd be an interesting one to come back with. And this is what Sports Opinions brings. It's not just your X's and O's stuff. I like to bring on some thought-provoking things. Like I said, there's changes that have gone on in the Sports Opinions Podcast Network. You can still find Sports Opinions on Twitter and Instagram at Twitter is Sports Opinion, no S, 30. And Instagram is Sports Opinions 30. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at @A_Cuesta 30. And like I said, there's an expansion coming. We're going to become not the Sports Opinions Podcast Network anymore, but the Opinions Podcast Network. Very shortly, it expands onto everything. Go listen to my other show if you like politics, The Median. I just had a congressional candidate from California on, and he was awesome to talk to. I had a UCLA professor on. I've had a leading global financial economist on, all talking about political topics. Discussions, though, there's no yelling. We all just speak. One talks, the other one stops, gives an opposing viewpoint, and they continue. It's really interesting stuff, I think. I'm going to continue to bring that. I'm going to get guests back on Sports Opinions. This is the bread and butter. I love talking to people. I don't like hearing myself talk all the time. I don't think you people like hearing me talk all the time. So, going to get guests back. That's going to happen. But I just had to bring you guys something. It's been over a month. So, you guys deserve something. The people that listen, you deserve something. So, again, I really want to thank everybody for listening. I thank everyone for bearing with me. Please go support the rest of the shows on the network. The newest ones, Play Action Podcast, Gentleman's Cabal, my own, The Median, the Cuesta Dose, Playbook, We're Young with Just Us. Go support them all. All great shows that bring a different type of spice. And thank you again, everybody. Can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you staying with me. And we'll be back. We'll be better than ever pretty damn soon. So again, thank you everyone for listening. Have a good one.